Now for Keen, now the opportunity, does he want to go for the skill matchup, pick a Fiora up because he has been playing well enough, or are we going to play it safe?
The classic Ryze-Gnar combo that I believe was popularized excessively by SKT in 2018, 2019, and has stayed with us ever since. Going to be picked up here. Of course, just pretty standard pickups. The R5 Gnar isn't exactly inspiring, but BDD on Ryze, definitely feeling pretty good about that. Cuz has been playing a heck of a lot of Sejuani. Varus Karma is, while not the most inspiring lane, outside of the fact that Karma does have an ability called that, it is still quite powerful. And we'll see whether KT can utilize it to its full effectiveness.
My one qualm with the composition of KT is that the only lane where they do have prio is topside, and topside doesn't matter. And in mid and in bot, there should be prio here for D plus Kia, which means that Canyon is going to have free roam of the jungle, so going to be a tough one for KT, but they do have a lot of team fighting power if they somehow get through that. Oh my goodness, that is a great drawing.
Yeah, Harry Potter Showmaker, of course. On Lolly Night, Showmaker was dressed up as Harry Potter. That actually happened. That was the thing. It was very, very cute. And I was sort of watching the rebroadcast of Lolly Night because I'm normally on a train when it's happening. And it was as if they just didn't react to it. He was just wearing the outfit, and then they just had a conversation as normal. It was very cool. It was very funny. But anyway, here we are. It's a heckin' good draft from D plus Kia. Really excited about it.
Very coherent.
Yeah. Looking forward to when Ashe and Jax make their debut. Maybe a little bit of a hint there from D plus Kia. As KT, pretty standard stuff. We've seen this a lot all around the world. We'll see whether stock standard is going to be enough against D plus Kia. Let's get onto the rift. All right. KT fans, I could sense a hint of desperation in their cheers around LOL Park.
Is that new?
Still echoing in my ears.
I don't think that's new.
No, it's not.
I think that's just the standard state of existence for
We've been good friends with Emily Rand for quite some time now, so we do generally know how it is on modes. And I've also spent my time in the KT camp of fandom before.
Because Deft was there?
Yeah. I'm now completely unbiased. Don't have a favorite team or player or anything because I'm a professional. And so we don't play favorites over here. I just like good League of Legends and when champions from Arcane are picked. And so therefore, I am slightly siding with D plus Kia for this one.
Safe. Safe call, Atlas, as hopefully for Canyon, he will have read the patch notes and will build a Black Cleaver, which is a very good item on this patch. It's way better than Kempum Chainsword.
Yep, and equally item efficient, gold efficient.
And that's not including the passive, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because you gives you movement speed, gives you armor shred, you get a ton of extra health. You know, you're playing into Sejuani with Aftershock. It's going to be nice.
Not a lot of healing.
There's not a lot of healing. So let's see. We'll find out. You never know in the LCK. It is a wild ride no matter what, as we do see Showmaker going for the area here. So, as we mentioned previously, looking to just keep the Ryze locked underneath the turret. So, Ryze will, of course, still scale, but it's going to scale at a range deficit and is also not going to be able to impact the side lanes early on as much as he would like to, which is one of the big reasons. It's really funny how we've really gone in a span of a few weeks from Ryze being you must pick him B1 to we can pick him up second rotation and no one really minds or cares that much.
And we were having conversations yesterday about rules that we have for each of our teams. Vi versus Sejuani has definitely been pretty good for the Vi. Works similarly to that of the Wukong and why we like that into the Sejuani, the denting blows, being able to really puncture that armor relatively effectively. Things like that can definitely brawl relatively early. Both of them with a fair chunk of single target lockdown as well. And that does suit these drafts. So to go back to my point, we were talking about you cannot leave the Ashe available for Keria. The same rule does kind of apply for Deft's Caitlyn. because it is so easy to play around it as a team.
Yeah, but there's so many of these champions is the problem.
I don't think any of them are as egregious as this.
Do you want to give Canyon Elise?
I'd prefer that than Deft's Caitlyn.
That's fair. I think that Deft's Caitlyn is better, but I also think Elise is worse to play into.
That's, you know, that's fair. That's fair. You take the nameplates off, I respect that.
As some possible action. Because at the very least going to check around. Doesn't spot anyone. Both junglers just going to be doing a almost full clear. Wolves skipped for Cuz, and Canyon has not picked up his Krugs yet. Happy setting up some vision here, but nothing too interesting as of right now, as so far everything going very smoothly here.
Yeah, Canna sort of struggling a little bit as far as like getting these minions underneath the turret. I don't know what the counter-strike was for necessarily, but that's okay. He's Jax, he's going to be pushed in a fair bit in this lane just in general, and I hope he gets used to it, because I would expect that there's not going to be a lot of attention towards his top side, as there's a net, and yeah, Aiming gets headshot, and he's being told, you need to go home. Does get the cannon, so there's at least that. And we'll see whether Aiming can find his way back into this lane, because so far things have been quite rough.
Yeah, and they're going to be. The wave state wasn't looking too hard. Aiming did go cleanse, which great. Deft as well, respecting Sejuani and Asher Ultimate respectively.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is good.
Cleanse on Caitlyn. Pretty good idea into Sejuani.
Yeah, we're learning.
Someone message Huni. We need to tell Huni that everything's okay. Everything's okay, Huni. He had a rough day yesterday, guys. There were certain cleanses not being taken, and he was a little bit losing his mind over it.
And there is a ton of vision around Canyon's jungle. Cuz hasn't been spotted on this ward yet, but of course Canyon will know, given that Cuz dropped a pink. And will now get spotted here. Top side is up. There was also a ward, so no surprises there. Showmaker's Victor has been great, unsurprisingly, but as with many successful LCK players, it's somewhat hard to really judge whether it's the champion or just when this player was playing this, they just were winning everything anyway.
I mean, he was always pretty good at the champion, because this was a lot of the times when Victor was being picked a whole lot in the mid lane in response to Azir, and that matchup was going both ways, and Showmaker was often having the better of it. So I think it does say a fair bit about how good he is on the champion. But you're right, you know, a lot of it is to do with the power of
I don't
what was then done one.
I don't know if it is in this case. I just wanted to give the caveat.
I think it probably was. Well, I mean, a little bit.
It's Showmaker. Depends on which split Showmaker you get.
Yeah.
He really levels up every now and then, as Canyon and Cuz are secking top half of the jungle, because that isn't real. No. It's not where bot lane is, so it doesn't really matter.
Certainly doesn't. Their bot lane is going to have the inside track here as Cuz is moving on over. All right, let's see whether this pincer maneuver is going to work. Showmaker, he's going to be able to make his way down, though. And the mantra actually working out here from Lahen's piercing arrow is going to miss. And yeah, Showmaker had level 6, but Cuz is going to be able to help bully them out, with Lahen's offering that bit of early power. Yeah,
main thing there is that BDD has Realm Warp as well, so even with Showmaker roaming over, you run the risk of BDD teleporting on top of you, and then if you do lose someone, you are in very rough territory, because I really like the D+ draft. I do think that they should be able to hold on to any lead that they get come mid-game, and if they don't take fights that they don't need to, and run the risk of getting snowballed against by Ryze, by Varus, they should be in a great spot nonetheless, especially with Kalin almost hitting level 6 as well. Same for Canyon. Like, once you have that 1-2 combo of the arrow plus the Vi ultimate, you'll be feeling a lot better, but does mean that they have to give up the early dragon, which they'll do with grace.
Yep, you're not really going to be too happy about giving away a Infernal, but that's all right. Next one, going to be an Ocean, so you know, Mountain and Hextech still available. Cloud as well. They want to, you know, take the real best dragon, but I know that that's not a popular opinion necessarily these days. As Canyon moving on over, and it looks like Rift Herald is going to be what DK are going to look for.
Atlas, no one minds your love for the Cloud Drake anymore, because Chemtech is now
Yeah.
in the game, and it's way.
I'm actually
way
pretty
worse.
psyched about it. There's also Ocean, which is not also very good at the moment as well. So
No.
we're just generally pretty happy in the Cloud camp. Just to give you a report.
The one
Those
you,
Cloud
the one
Drake
you, the one you
enthusiasts.
started, Cloud
Yeah.
Camp,
Yeah.
we're all fellow.
Yeah, I'm currently
enjoyers.
currently the only member. Azael comes over sometimes, but he wouldn't call himself.
Walks in, says
member.
it's underrated actually, and then leaves again and leaves you alone.
yeah. That does definitely happen.
Yeah.
I have some lonely nights, but it's otherwise okay. Aiming, gonna take a third of his health bar here with the ace in the hole. And yeah, D+ Gear retain control of this bottom side, although CS gap is actually shrinking. I think Aiming, now that he's got that serrated Dirk, is feeling a lot happier in this lane.
Yeah, I don't know if happy. He's happier.
Yeah, I think that's
No,
that's what I
that's
meant.
very accurately. Yeah. No, it's very accurately phrased. As overall, level 6s have now been hit, and both AD carries need to be very respectful. In case of Deft, it's because of Cuz and possible BDD roams. As we are getting some Herald movement here. Now, what will the response from D+B? They can either head towards the bot side of the map and try to zone away Aiming, as done by Deft.
Arrow will connect here.
That.
There's the Peacemaker. Not much going to happen there is the Realm Warp being threatened by BDD, moving over to the side. And looks like D+ just have no interest in the Herald whatsoever. They're just going to try and lock down this turret. Headshot going to be primed, and so 2 plates.
Lahans, you can't stay here, I don't think.
Well, he's going to. Whether or not that's a good idea is going to be another question. As there's a cease and desist. Let's see whether Lahans can keep himself alive. I don't think so, as there's first blood going over to Deft. So D+ Kia grabbing the best side of that trade, I reckon.
Bit of a oopsie.
Head scratcher?
Lands. Well, it's, they're not contesting on the top half of the map. Canyon walked over Vision as well. And it's 5 with Ashe and Caitlyn. So you are never getting out of there, unfortunately, for the KT support. And just giving over kills to Caitlyn, because while you get the Herald, that does mean that you know that there are 2 options for D+. Either they try and contest, or what has been the main response is you zone the enemy bot lane off of the map. And that was what Aiming saw and respected. He pieced out as, ooh.
Well, Arrow is going to go wide there as the Rift Herald charges into the mid lane. BDD picking up a fair bit of money. That's certainly a good avenue back into this game for KT. Still not going to be able to win out on the trade overall. But otherwise, feeling pretty happy about that situation. And they do have a slight gold advantage, mainly to do with Keen having a bit more towards this top side, as we can see.
Yeah, top lane has been completely isolated, and Keen has been doing a stellar job in that regard. Main question becomes, how can you actually translate that lead into something that's relevant for the game? Because we have seen that, if anything, bot lane leads are much more important in general. Then this is also a Caitlyn who, yes, is reliant on snowballing, but if she does snowball, she becomes an absolute menace. And it's also Deft. So there's a lot of extra multipliers that make the situation, I think, still considerably worse for KT, even though they are ahead in gold right now with the amount of pressure. But if they can find the shutdown, as you do see, we see BDD and Cuz move towards that bottom half of the map, and you can keep down Deft and Kellen, not really allow them to snowball as hard as they would like to, then come 5v5s, you think the composition of KT should be able to match. If they are a little bit hesitant and they allow D+ to poke and set up, throw down their traps, then it can be tough, but still, you can catch someone off guard with a Realm Warp, with a Sejuani ultimate, still a lot of power for KT.
It's absolutely true. Canup pushing up towards his top side. Rod of Ages now complete for BDD. And oftentimes, it's around this moment that we see the outer turret falling on the bottom side of the map for a Caitlyn comp being played to the exact way that they want to. So far KT have played pretty well defensively around this, as Drake is going to spawn on this bottom side and D+ Kia looking to set up for it. Cuz coming on over, seeing whether he can bully them out, and Canyon is going to vacate, and they are going to move in. So with the Gnar moving down, looks like KT are going to wrestle some control back. How long that's going to last is going to be the question. As Lahans on the flank. I like that. Going to be able to Mantra Q the Caitlyn, get her out of there. And the Drake has been started. Canyon looking to come on over, but not going to be able to get there in time. And D plus Gear behind the play a little bit when it comes to these Drakes. Hex Tech Soul to come in. Wow, both teams very excited about that one.
Yeah, that's huge. And that also means that every subsequent fight will have to be fought, or every subsequent Drake will have to be fought, because you can't fight a fight without
fighting the fight.
Yeah, thank you for that. As do want to highlight some of the itemization choices in a positive manner, because we are often not too happy, as might have to wait a little bit.
Well, aiming, yeah, he's going to be asked to stop. Walks out though, it's a very nice cleanse. What an ability. So not going to get killed.
Taking cleanse.
I know, it's absurd.
Still should be an opportunity here to at the very least shove aggressively and try and zone him off the turret, although it won't take that much damage. And Lahenza and KT in general are doing a really good job here of hanging on, right? This play not successful, and as a result, not quite able to, as saying hello. But he's just gonna run. Just gonna go back
all the way back again. Well, there is a wave crashing. Let's see whether they can actually make something of this, as Kellen gets taken down very, very low. Heal has to be used. Chains of Corruption did come out. No plates left up and available on this turret. It's likely to fall relatively soon, but as you can see, Keen is making shorter work of it. And KT, the defensive play around this Caitlyn lane has just been gorgeous.
It's really, really clean by KT. They're simultaneously holding on to not give up first turret blood, because even though we see that Aiming and Lahens in terms of CS and 2v2 have fallen behind a little bit, at the same time, they're not dying. They were able to wave clear sufficiently. The cleanse actually super key there. Canyon going for that aggressive play. Didn't quite work out. If Deft is able to maybe find a trap earlier, I think he was a little bit further away, maybe as to not give anything away. Then the combo can work, but they use the pressure on top side very well, is what we asked of them earlier. Actually leverage Keen playing this matchup aggressively very well, while holding on to bot side, not allowing the Caitlyn to snowball too much. So loving what KT is doing here, setting himself up for a great mid game, and as a result will be a lot stronger when going into these inevitable Drake fights. As before we go back, look at that, that's a Black Cleaver, and it's also a damage build on Victor.
My goodness.
Keen, I don't know about this
Keen also might be dead, as the wallop comes through with a fair bit of value. Oh, has to flash the arrow, but does so. Keen gets out of there. Has to expend his ult and flash. Doesn't care about the ult, but the flash is kind of important. See whether that impacts this next fight, which should be around the Herald. But KT retain a heck of a lot of control.
I wonder whether D+ is actually going to fight for it. Looks like they might be thinking about it. Do not have Kellen or Caitlyn ultimate, but still aggressively nonetheless.
Yeah, Kellen does have a fair bit of control of this area with the fact that Hawkshot exists and things like that. Cuz with his Warmogs available, happy to stand in this front line for a large amount of time. But now with that Leandries, it's really important. Chains of Corruption comes in. They're looking to try and steal as Cuz comes on over. Canyon going to be able to pick up the eye, but BDD, he's realm warped into the back, not able to do quite enough, though. That's a huge nah from Keen, but he's still going to have to try and make his way out, and Showmaker's at full health. He does so much damage. Deft trying to get away from aiming, and he's going to be able to do so as Cuz gets over the wall, but Lahens, I don't think he's going to be so lucky. He does have the flash, but he's just not quite as fast as the rest of his teammates. Gets the Inspire Shield, so he's actually going to be able to walk it off. Never you mind.
That was so much chaos, Atlas, but overall it is a big win here for D+ Kia. Get themselves the Herald, get themselves the team fight win, and as a result now, able to swing back the gold lead in their favor.
Man, Victor is OP. Did so much damage in that fight.
He builds damage, yeah.
Isn't it insane? It's crazy.
Okay, so we have pure chaos here. Obviously, thanks to the trap setup and the Victor, it's very hard to approach. And if Cuz hadn't taken as much damage as he did, then this play might work, because the idea is Keen and BDD, both big threats, Realm Warp in behind, and then Cuz engages and pushes in with Lahens and aiming. But because Cuz is already taken as low as he is, that doesn't work. So everyone just immediately focuses on Keen and on BDD, and that little moment of disjointedness might come back to haunt them, as a result now, as mentioned, Herald picked up, get some additional gold onto Showmaker and Deft. The overall game state deteriorating a little bit here for KT.
It's definitely feeling a lot better for DK, as now the arrow is going to connect onto Cuz. Soaking so much CC here as Deft. Full combo right into the back of his head. Rapid fire cannon complete now for the Caitlyn as inner turret under fire from KT. And Canyon's going to move on over and look for that first Hex Tech Drake. I think it's very, very important Dragon to take, but trading it for an inner turret, I think if you're KT, you're kind of all right with. The Showmaker's going to move on over and try and deter BDD, who does have a decent wave. But still, he's going to be able to get it. There we go. Def with the cleanse, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save him. Chains of Corruption, just the edge. He's going to be able to pick that one up there for aiming.
And KT playing really, really well here. Continuously pushing against D+, not allowing him to take any objective for free. And they're able to simultaneously find an inner, which by itself already would be a win in terms of trade, I'd say, because it pumps so much extra gold into BDD and looking to get to that 10 stacks and Seraph's spike hopefully soon. And also picking off Deft. Just well done.
Yeah.
Across the board, we see Deft here trying to maintain the semblance and prio for his team as Cuz really nicely here with the predict on the ultimate, hits it, and even the cleanse, unfortunately, not enough to save Deft there.
Nope. And so now, not going to have the cleanse for the next little while. Aiming has his back available again, so any stray arrows aren't going to be as feared at this point in the game. And I guess we now have to have a conversation about what the late game looks like for both of these teams, right? Because oftentimes, with compositions like the one DK have put together, the late game often isn't spoken about because they get so much control early with the turrets being taken, they don't need to worry about it. Is Canyon going to be able to smite away his Raptor, but not going to be able to take control of his red buff? And with the game state in the way that it is, that late game conversation is going to be very different. And yes, there is Victor and Caitlyn, but there's also BDD, who's going to be doing so much AoE damage around the team fighting capabilities of this Gnar.
I personally have a slight favor for the D+ composition, provided that they can actually do setup. Because if there is a opportunity for Keen to find a flank, to get into the backline easily, that's a big risk. Cuz also has a lot of agency with him being able to start up fights, and then aiming can go for the follow-up. There is also Lehens with the mantra Inspire. And in situations where neither team is pulling the trigger, as you point out, the Caitlyn isn't at the point where you'd ideally want it to be, which is extremely far ahead and already working towards that IE, which I don't know if he's going to go for, given that he is currently, or just bought a longsword, but we'll see which build Deft does end up going for. But the problem for D+ is that their front line is pretty lacking. My assumption is Canyon is still going to go for Radiant Virtue, so he'll be beefy, especially with Aftershock. But compared to a Sejuani and into champions like, most notably, the Rise, you can still run into some issues. And if you have no control and you're unable to set up some traps, to land some initial poke, KT composition is going to be really, really strong. And side laning, which normally would be a win condition with this Jax, not really going to be an option because of the Rise existing.
Yeah. We'll see whether BDD is going to be able to take some control, because in that last team fight, things were a little bit rough. But now, sieging this bottom side, BDD has his 2 items now complete, very close to having the Rod of Ages tick up for that extra level. That is where we've got a level 15 Rise kind of looming just on the horizon with one more level and the Rod of Ages. So, going to be in a great position for at least this later mid-game. And we'll see whether that is going to transition. Because like you say, of course, Def in the ultra late game going to be the largest damage dealer on the Rift alongside Showmaker as the flash has to come out from Lehans. Cuz throws the prison in, but there's a cease and desist. Canyon pushes him back with the Vault Breaker, and that is the jungler dead. This could be massive as Canna finds the Counter-Strike. Amy's going to be pushed out. Lehans slowed down by the volley, and that is another kill for D+ Kia. Oh dear, this game went from KT control to disaster so quickly.
And this is very unfortunate because not only are you going to give up Baron, this might also lead to one of the bigger win conditions for KT, and one that I thought they had a real shot at, which is that Dragon. If they were able to set up kind of a 50-50, them getting soul point by still denying the Baron, they would have been in a great spot, but Venus Mega!
Yep, gonna find the Gnar onto Deft. He does manage to buffer, but I don't know whether he'll survive. Has to flash, but he's gonna be able to do so as the Gnar goes down. Now Canna is fighting BDD. He has to flash, but there's the Counter-Strike flash from Canna as well. Aiming off to the side can do nothing now as D plus Kia get it all. And Chronicler, do you know what's making me... If this game was a car or a vehicle, it would have the turning circle of a tank. It is just back and forth instantly.
As Lahan's flesh is there, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with your metaphor. You need to explain to me after this team fight. It really is as straightforward as Cuz gets 100 to 0, and then there is a really nice flank ward as well. Yeah, no, game's done. It's over.
It's looking a little bit dicey for KT.
I'm not believing anymore.
Someone said an E word in chat. I think that must have been what happened. As we do have the Hex Tech Drake going down, and with a Baron buff and a Caitlyn, and a lot of turrets still left available, D plus Gear should move into a commanding position. As we have a look at this Baron fight yet again.
As we will again see the value of cleanse. There is, of course, no jungler here, so there's not really the risk of a smite fight. It is mainly about being able to win the subsequent fight. Canyon with the dancing blows does a lot of damage, and aiming unable to find him after the initial arrow. And then here you're fighting a member down as Lahan's attempting to set up vision for the
Karma setting up vision
and
when the game state's not great. It's not a good feeling.
It is not, and it's also situations like this become so much more complicated due to the Hex gates, right? It's something that hasn't been in the game as long, and I think it throws off a lot of supports when you're like, okay, they just based, right? We lost the fight, they got Baron. Can I go in and set up vision? The answer is no, because they can literally teleport a large part of the normal way that they have to walk.
Yeah.
And Lahan's clearly caught off guard by that.
Yeah, Lord Dominic's Regard going to be completed here by Deft. Infinity Edge for the 4th item. Just wanted to make sure he can get through the tanky members of this team as Arrow is going to fly forward. Quite a few targets waiting underneath this turret, but I don't know whether Cuz is the optimal one. Still, he's getting taken down so incredibly low as Cease and Desist going to be used defensively onto Keen. The Nahbar is pretty good, and D plus Kia will back away. Once again, KT, it feels like KT in defensive situations so much stronger, but when the onus is on them to make decisions, that's when life becomes a little bit difficult. Once again, going to have to start putting out fires here towards this top side of the map while BDD gets to work on this bottom lane in a turret.
Will he get out? Is running. Might run into Deft here, but seemingly should be okay. As he's going back. Okay, we'll be fine. We'll get spotted in the ward as D plus sees him getting out. But I agree with you, Atlas. The KT game state to me felt very salvageable, and then it didn't at all anymore. Out of seemingly nowhere. That one catch on Cuz won the game.
Yeah,
for D plus, right? It's pretty sad because just Lahan's having forced his flash there would have been fine. Would have been okay. Been unfortunate, but not the end of the world. But now I know how you come back in this game when you're KT.
Especially into a composition like this that can control ground so effectively and has such oppressive vision and counter vision as well, right? The ability to just walk around and kill stuff with an Umbral Glaive. We've been talking about this for many, many moons. The support Ashe is very, very strong and can certainly snowball that in a lot of ways. As she is going to land a nice ultimate, but the Glacial Prison going to be there. Cannon going to have to back away, but the Chaos Storm doing so much work. Cease and Desist puts BDD right in the middle of it as the Bai is going to be taken down in response. Counter-strike from Canna keeps him alive as D plus Kia looking to try and continue pressing forward. But KT going 1-for-1 in that moment, I think you're kind of okay with it.
You'll take it, absolutely. Game hasn't been lost just yet at Walking.
All right, doesn't find the ice block.
As, yeah, getting a kill there and stifling the push is a big win, as we really do see that these continued engages on the front line are fine. When you need to respect a little bit, Kenyon getting somewhat overzealous here, does get caught in this CC chain, gets hit by Lance as well, and as a result will get taken down.
I have to say, aiming has been pretty impressive this game. He's kind of holding things together. Because in a game like this, the Varus does get pretty ridiculously outscaled. by, you know, the crit nature of a Caitlyn. She is just going to scale more effectively the more items she picks up in comparison to the lethality Varus. But Aiming has been landing these chains of corruption and really making it difficult for D+ here to continue this snowball moving forward. Is Cuz is going to find Canyon here. Cease and desist going to be utilized. Arrow goes into the wind as Keen tries to bounce over the wall, but he doesn't even make it. But it does not matter. They pick up the kill onto the Vias. Now Canna is going to answer. Both junglers now dead as Deft chasing after Lahens. Ace in the hole will finish off the Karma, and now he can get to work on the rest of KT. Aiming flashes away, but BDD not going to be so lucky. And now it's a Baron, it's a Drake, it's whatever you'd like. I guess they're in 30 seconds time, so maybe we'll just break open the base.
Aiming will get away here with his life, but that's all the positive that you have out of that play. More and more KT unable, going for a Heal Mary there, as I say that, because it's Canyon that actually starts the fight, doesn't find the Q, and gets focused down rather quickly. But crucially, a lot of attention is focused towards a Vi that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. And I want to pay attention to the movement of both Deft and Showmaker here, as Kana just takes up the role for frontline, as his actual frontline is dead. Doesn't matter, because the actual damage dealers are both full health. Deft dispatches of lands, and in that fight Showmaker then picks up the slack and shreds through a multitude of health bars. And it will be, I think, kind of tough to vote for POG here as well, because Showmaker, Deft, and even Kana with some of his team fight and his flanks all making a strong case for themselves.
Yeah, I think Canyon's the only illegal one in this game so far, but even he has been able to start really fights pretty effectively. But I think it feels so weird wanting to vote for a Victor, but I want to vote for a Victor. I don't know.
You know, it's a good sign when Atlas is not wanting to vote for Deft's Caitlyn.
Yeah, I know.
That's how you know it's.
Do you know what the real good sign
gameplay
is? I don't have a vote. That's the best sign that we have. It's all right. I'm taken care of. I have a lot of representation.
We really take your opinion into it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. As Arrow is going to connect here, Callan heard us talking and wanted to offer his name into the ballot. Deft getting some autos as Kane desperately trying to buy some ground, buy some space for KT to work with. Feeling very difficult at this point in the game. Still, DK haven't been able to break the base open just yet. These inhibitor turrets still remain alive as Buzz going to move in. All right, Shirelius has been used. Arctic Assault is good, and he manages to land the ult, but Deft creates the distance that he needs. D+ can move back to this Baron. They will be able to lock that one down. Triple Hextech Drake as well, as the arrow is going to connect onto the Sejuani Canna. Is going to be able to follow up the CC, but the Chains of Corruption are there. The Jax is in trouble in the piercing arrow. It connects once again. Maybe a slide over extension here for D+ Kia. As Ace in the hole, going to be blocked there by Cuz, just sets himself in position. And the cease and desist is there. Showmaker is just chasing after them. The Chaos Storm is massive. And Aiming, he cannot stand there and shoot them. And even though they lost Canna, it doesn't seem to matter here. D+ Kia just push towards the inhibitor turret. They'll take it down. Health bar's too low. And KT, a brief moment of respite as DK spend all their money.
And if you thought the neutral was bad, imagine if D+ actually get a Hextech Soul. Yeah. Yeah, that won't be fun. Some individual mistakes. D+ may be a little too eager to end this game. Both Canyon previously and now Kana getting somewhat overexcited. Aiming, as you point out, if KT somehow pull this one back, it's a very easy as finds a big chain here. But this is exactly the type of play that, in my opinion, we barely or not at all seen from Showmaker in this spring. Right? This is a player who has been one of, if not the best top laner in, or mid laner rather, in the LCK for, well, going on 3 years now.
Yeah, long time.
Hasn't really looked like that thus far. Having a great Victor game here. And for KT, I do truly believe that up until that catch, they had a great angle in this game. I thought that draft, even though they might run into issues, was overall well balanced. Keen played it out very well. The early macro was good. And then they made one big mistake, and then it was kind of over.
Yeah, and it's feeling like it's been circling the drain ever since. Despite there being these couple of moments, you know, where you're like, oh, KT, you're like did okay in that team fight right there. And that, you know, that's just how it goes. You get glimpses. It's not always greatest. Man, this 4-item Caitlyn made Cuz not look very tanky at all on this Sejuani. Aiming desperately, trying to cling on to relevance here. He also has 4 items, but they're not the same 4 items as Deft has put together. It's just one of the problems that you're going to run into as the Varus at this stage. Still, going to do a fair bit if tasked with it. There's another arrow is going to fly in. Arctic Assault going to catch it there by Cuz as they look to try and take down this inner turret. Okay, Cannon will be able to do it. And Cannon splitting in the mid lane. Nice work.
That's not only the name of the meme, but also if you combine Canna and Canyon's names.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the Cannon combo.
You learn something new every day.
I like it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you learned something, because I made it up. You know, it's not necessarily real.
I still learned it.
You're going to remember it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Atlas.
I
was worried for a second there.
The Cannon Bros? Call them the Cannon Bros from now on. They're worth the most gold. All right, Arrow is going to connect onto Cuz here. Cease and desist. Yeah, he's going to say, yes, I'll stop. He's going to get out of there, though. Puts Canyon in prison, which is pretty canonically correct with, you know, what they want to do in Arcane as well to the Vi. As DK going to move back towards this Soul.
You have to fight it. It's not going to be pretty, but you don't have a choice.
Showmaker loves his choke points. They're going to be able to set up these traps as well, but the Realm Warp is going to bring all of KT over. So they at least subjugate that issue, as it is going to be Hextech Soul, and now there is lightning all over this Rift. Deft just free-hitting. Arrow is going to connect into that backline. The Karma's going to be taken down, and everybody else has to scatter. T plus Gear just too strong at this stage of the game. Canyon, he's just going to run on over and murder aiming, which is not very friendly, and honestly, this is not looking friendly at all. BDD going to buy a little bit of time, but it delays the inevitable, and there is Cannon picking up that final kill. There's the ace, there's the Soul, and that is the game for D plus Gear here in game 1.
KT unable to match the mid game. A crucial mistake. One pick cost them a Baron, cost them a Dragon, and from there it quickly snowballs. D plus in slow but sure fashion, able to pick themselves up a victory here for Hextech Drakes.
Yeah, Lehen, not very happy about that, being greeted to this life as by a giant arrow. But D plus Gear will be able to pick up the first game in this series. A win here, remember guys, is actually really important for this squad. After dropping games to both T1 and Gen G, they really want to prove that they are one of our top contenders here in the LCK. This is the first step to doing so. It wasn't the fastest, it wasn't the cleanest, but they were the cleaner of the teams that were on the Rift here in game number 1. And we'll see how they're going to do in game number 2 as well, because I think there were definitely some better signs for KT than we saw last time around, right? This wasn't a KT that was rolling over and dying. This was a KT trying to cling on to a game that they lost control of with a mistake. And I think that that is a different thing to what we've seen from KT in their other losses.
We also still saw some of the issues that D+ has been dealing with, which is actually ending games in a timely fashion. Both Kana and Canyon being a little bit too trigger-happy at times, which didn't end up shifting the game at all, but it did prolong it, and against better opponents, those moments of weakness might actually come back and haunt you, but KT not going to be able to do so, as actually tough for me to predict who's going to pick up POG, because I might also see some Ashe votes. There were a lot of arrows being fired.
I think there are some Kellen angles that you could go for.
There's Deft angle, yeah, it's Caitlyn, he played clean.
I'm very proud of Showmaker as well for, you know, having a good game. Didn't die on his Victor, did a heck of a lot of damage.
Couple of good options.
I think there are quite a few options. So nice. Where did your vote go for, or do you want to hold on to it and keep it a secret?
If you want me to tell, I'm more than happy to share. Did go for Showmaker.
Well, it looks much better now that we've seen the damage graph. That's almost 4 times the damage of his opponent.
As we continue to see why the Victor into the Rise is a fun match.